Hey guys, welcome back to the pod. Today I have a special guest here with me. I have actor and filmmaker Mark Hampton. Hi Mark, how are you doing?
I'm really well. Thanks for having me on the show. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time to join. I actually have your bio here, but I'm like, I feel like it would be better for you to just tell me about yourself and to tell the people about yourself instead of being boring and reading through it. So if you don't mind, if you could just give a little bit of a backstory as to how you got into the industry and just maybe a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. So, as you say, my name is Mark Hampton. I'm an actor, I'm a screenwriter, I'm a director, and I am someone who's had a passion for cinema and filmmaking since a very young age. I started making films when I was a kid, when the first time my dad came home with a video camera in the 80s. It was one of those big boxes that had a kind of camera that looked like a gun that attached by a wire, and it was too much for young me to even carry, but I was determined to try and make little films with it. And that kind of grew into making films with friends after school, and that kind of created this kind of passion for filmmaking. And then that kind of fed into a passion for acting. You need friends to be in a scene of a movie, and you need to be in the movie, and you get to perform, and suddenly you kind of have that energy, that kind of sense that you've created a moment, like a scene. And so, I pursued acting as a teenager, and I was lucky enough to get some roles in film and TV here in the UK, and was kind of just establishing myself. But then I took a long break from it. I worked in film production for a while. I worked as an assistant director, so I was learning about the mechanics of filmmaking on a kind of big professional scale. I worked on TV commercials, music videos, and movies, and all the rest. Um, but the break happened when I had kids,
Mm.
and now my kids are bit older, so the kids are a bit more independent, and I've been blessed to be able to come back into the industry. To come back into this industry with a bit more experience, a few more years behind me, and I've been very lucky to kind of land quite a few roles in different projects, work with some reasonably big names, and really feel like I'm making waves and getting myself re-established in the industry as an actor, but also as a screenwriter and a filmmaker. So I have a few films that have been out, a few TV things, a few things coming up. I directed my first feature this year, and I've got another screenplay that I wrote that's being optioned for production next year. So there's a lot happening, and I feel like I'm just kind of getting that snowballing effect just now.
Yeah, that's nice. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so we're definitely going to get into some of the upcoming films that you have coming out for next year. But before that, I did want to ask you, so you're from New Zealand, is that right?
I'm a Kiwi, yeah. So I grew up way, way down in Aotearoa, which is, the other side of the world from where I am now. So I grew up on a small farm. We weren't farmers, but we just had a bit of land. And, I grew up in a very kind of outdoorsy lifestyle. Um, and so, it was a big culture shock for me to move to the UK when I was 11 years old. We moved from a big house on a big piece of land to a terrace house, those rows of
Oh,
houses
wow.
you get in the UK. And
Hmm.
so that was kind of different. Um, but yeah, being in the UK has been, great. It's where I've spent most of my life now, and it's certainly where I've managed to find, great opportunities as a actor and as a filmmaker.
Okay, and so I was going to ask you, you did say that you moved to the UK when you were 11. So do you
Yep.
know what the industry was like in New Zealand at that time? Was there really a space for up and coming actors?
The industry was pretty non. I mean, there's some TV. There was all, there's the usual kind of live TV. TVNZ had two channels, and that was local. There was very little in the way of the film industry. So when there was a New Zealand film made, it was kind of a big deal because it was like, wow, it had everybody famous in it because it was the only New Zealand film that anyone had ever seen. And I think that since I've been away, obviously, there's been the emergence of, first of all, they were making fantasy things like Xena, Warrior Princess, and stuff like that in New Zealand. And then, of course, Peter Jackson came along and kind of single-handedly created a film industry, based in Wellington through making his projects right up into and including Lord of the Rings, of course,
Mm.
where they developed the technology to do all the kind of big visual effects and all the kind of computer-generated orcs and whatnot. So they were really pushing the boundaries of what could be achieved. And so they've done a huge. I mean, like I say, he pretty much single-handedly created a film industry in New Zealand, and so obviously now it's a huge hub for filmmaking because the infrastructure is now there. So none of that was there when I was a kid.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. So, do you think you would ever move back there?
I don't know if I'd move back there. This is my home now in the UK, but I would love to go and work there. I'd love to go back and work on a film project with, the Weta Workshop, with the Wingnut Films, and because it is such a beautiful country. I have family there. We you don't go very often because of the distance, but it would be wonderful to go and work there. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, and I bet they're really proud of you too.
Yeah, I hope so. There are a few Kiwis who like to kind of stake a claim to being, yep, we've got him. Mark's one of ours.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say you're probably a big movie star there.
Not quite. I mean, I think that, hopefully the things that I'm doing here will, they luckily things get distributed globally very quickly these days. And so anything that anybody sees on Netflix or Amazon or over here is pretty much going to be seen over there at the same time. So, my family who are all back there are all able to kind of like clench their fists and celebrate that seeing Mark on the TV, which is always nice.
Yeah, I think you're being a little humble. You're supposed to say, "Yes, of course I'm a big movie star back there."
I'm a huge movie star.
Exactly.
In New Zealand, I like to say, "Do you know who I am?" And
Yeah, exactly. Right, that's the answer I was looking for. Oh
there
my
we go.
goodness. So you have a film that has just recently come out called Control, and it's starring Kevin Spacey.
That's right. Yeah. So Kevin Spacey plays the voice in this film. So this film is it's a indie thriller. It's kind of a one location film. I don't know if you ever saw the film Phone Booth with Colin Farrell, where he picks up a phone in a phone booth, and the guy on the other end of the phone kind of basically traps him there by saying, "I've got a gun trained on you, and you can't move, and you've got to do this and whatever." This film is kind of similar, but the difference is it's been brought up to the modern times. This time it's a self-driving car,
Mm.
and a woman gets into it, and then somebody, Kevin Spacey, takes control of the car and starts forcing her to do things, threatening to use the car as a weapon against members of the public. So she's the secretary of the Home Secretary, rather, for the British government, and I play the Prime Minister. So I kind of open the movie, doing a big speech, and it's revealed that the Prime Minister and the Home Secretary they're having a thing. And
Hmm.
so, when she drives off, she has the Prime Minister's daughter in the back of the car, having agreed to take her home. So there's a whole jeopardy now of you've got this secret relationship, you've got the child of the Prime Minister in the back of the car, and she's now being told to do things by the voice of Kevin Spacey. So it's a tight little indie thriller. And Kevin Spacey, I guess, thinking back to something like Seven, for example, where you don't get to see him for a lot of the film, you just get the voice. He kind of brings that sort of sinister edge to what he does, right?
Yeah, that sounds really intense. So tell me what that experience was like filming that, and what the premiere was like.
We had the premiere at the Genesis Cinema in London a couple of weeks ago. Big red carpet event. It was a lot of fun. It was great to see the film in front of a full theater full of people, and everyone had a great time. We really enjoyed watching the movie on the big screen. For most of us, it's the first time that I'd seen it. I hadn't seen it since I'd been on set or doing some of the ADR. So it was good to see the kind of the finished movie, and we were super proud of what it is. So the movie itself comes out on the 15th, so only in a few days it is released internationally. It's going to be in cinemas, so you can go and see it on a big screen. So that's fantastic. And I was really pleased with my own performance in it. I was really happy with how it came across on screen, and I felt like I was suitably prime ministerial. And yeah, when I was filming it, on the day I was filming it, my favorite quote was, and I had this from several people who were playing the audience. There's an audience of 60, 70 people, and I had a few of them come up and in all seriously, they would say to me, "I'd vote for you."
That's a compliment.
Right?
And that's actually one of the things I was going to ask you. So when you go to these premieres, and you're watching it with an audience, are you nervous to see people's reactions?
Yeah, well, it's not. I'm not so worried about other people's reactions. I am only really worried about whether I watch the performance and whether I think I did a good job. I think a lot of creatives are quite sort of self-critical in this way. They'll look for things they did wrong and the things that they could have improved. But I tend to look at it and just from a lens of, do I believe the moment? Do I believe in this scene? Do I believe this is actually happening?
Hmm.
Or is something about what I'm doing somehow breaking the suspension of disbelief? And as long as nothing I do is breaking the scene, I'm part of a scene. So I'm not just the only element, the only factor. There's the way that it has been filmed, the way that the sound mix has been done. There's all of the things that are out of my control. But the thing that I can control, of course, is my performance on the day. And as long as my performance is truthful and I believe it,
Hmm.
And I think I've done the right thing.
Yeah, that's a good perspective to have because, like you said, I think a lot of creatives and most actors will say, "I can't watch my own films. I can't look at myself on screen," or they're like, "I can't even enjoy the movie." And I'm like, "Well, that's kind of sad because, like, if I was an
Yeah,
actor, I would love to be able to like see myself on the big screen."
absolutely. And I think that I don't have a I'm not a really shy person. A lot of actors are really shy underneath it. I'm not one of them. I'm pretty extroverted, but I don't have a problem with watching myself on the screen. When you're a beginning actor, when you're a starting out in this industry, one of the biggest things you have to learn is that your voice sounds different to others to the way that it sounds to you. And you'll know this from being a broadcaster, right? So
Yeah.
that the first time you see yourself or hear yourself in a student short film or whatever it is, it's kind of a shock because you
Hmm.
don't sound the same. And once you get over that hurdle, then I think you're more ready to kind of just watch and let your performance kind of flow over you and kind of analyze it. And yeah, does it work in the scene? Is it? Yeah, I believe it. If I believe it, like I say, if I believe it, then we did a good job.
Yeah, exactly. And then, so did you audition for this part? What was that process like getting the role?
So I had made a short film just before the COVID pandemic in which I played an American senator. So I wrote it, I directed it, and the movie or the short film is basically my character giving a big speech after he's just been elected to Congress, but he's just discovered on his way to the podium he discovered that his wife has just been killed in a car accident.
Oh, wow.
So it basically flips everything for him. His whole perspective on everything changes. And instead of doing a big victory speech, he starts to reveal actually, this is the truth about himself, the truth about his campaign, the truth about American politics. And it was essentially just a 14-minute takedown of American politics and how it's all
Hmm.
money and corruption and all the rest of it. Um, but because I had this scene, my showreel of me doing this big speech, I think Gene, the director, had seen this and gone, "Well, there's a guy who can deliver like a character who's in a position of authority in front of a group of people and really deliver a speech." And he needed this for his film. So I think that really helped me. So he then, on the basis of that, he brought me into audition, and then I worked with Lauren on the scenes where we have to interact, and we just had a really natural kind of energy and relationship and kind of chemistry, I think, together, and it just kind of worked very, very quickly. So they essentially offered me the role pretty much on the spot. I mean, I didn't get confirmed, but your worst fear in an audition is that you go and in the audition they say, "Well, this is great, and I think we're gonna work really well together," and then you never hear anything back. And in this case, I got the call and I was in, so it was fantastic.
Oh, that's great. That's great. One of your other upcoming projects coming out next year is titled Lift, and it's starring Kevin Hart. That's going to be a Netflix movie. So, can you tell me a little bit about that?
So Lift is this, yeah, it's an action kind of comedy. It's a airborne heist movie. It comes out on Netflix on the 6th of January, and in it I play a fighter pilot. So there's a big sequence where they're basically hijacking, like I say, in sort of midair, and then some fighter pilots come around, and we're having to work out whether or not we take this airplane out of the sky, or what, all these kind of highly dramatic moments. For me, it was just the chance to play Top Gun, and
Yeah.
I loved
Yeah.
it. I had all the gear. I had the flight suit. I had the helmet, the mask, the visor. I'd say, to be honest, by the time you see it in the finished movie, with all that stuff, it could be anybody.
Yeah.
But it's me, and I had a great time doing it. I once made a 60-second remake of the original Top Gun movie and won an award for it. Like, I'm that much of a Top Gun fan.
Oh,
So for me to
wow.
get the chance to sit in a fighter jet and essentially kind of play Top Gun was just joyful. I had a great time doing that job. So it'll be really fun to see that. I think I love Kevin Hart. I love the tone of his acting, the comedic style that he brings. And yeah, I can't wait to see the movie.
Yeah, I saw the trailer for it and I was like, whoa. I was like, this looks like a big one.
Yeah. It's high concept, big budget Netflix movie, right? So it's good stuff.
And have you met Tom Cruise?
I haven't met. Well, actually, that's not true. I did. I worked as a kind of walk on as a helicopter pilot on Edge of Tomorrow many years ago, and
Okay.
I did meet Tom. I met Tom then. I met him very briefly on set, and we were in the scenes where I don't know if you recall in the movie. He keeps on waking up in this bag of like this pile of duffel bags, and each time he wakes up, it's different because each time he has been through a different experience.
Hmm.
And I remember watching it as they were filming it and going, he's doing this scene differently every single time. How are they possibly going to edit this scene? And I didn't know what the story was at the time. I was just there being a kind of walk on. But
Hmm.
and I did meet him very briefly and had a little sort of interaction with him. But he was, very quickly whisked off set in his car and off he
Hmm.
went. But yeah, I think what people forget about movie stars is that when you're acting with them, when you're on set, you're just there to do the job, right? Everyone's there
Hmm.
to work. They're there to work. They're not there to be a diva. They're just to do the best job they can do, and you're there to be part of that. And I think one of the attributes of someone who is going to make it as an actor is that ability to not look at someone like Tom Cruise or Kevin Hart and be kind of awed by it, but just to be like, okay, well, he's part of the scene, and I'm part of the scene, and this is what I bring to the scene, and we work together as professionals.
Hmm. And then you freak out later.
And then later on, well, no, you tell your friends and they freak out.
Yeah. And they're like, "Can we come to set with you?"
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So we had the same thing like years ago with Angelina Jolie on Tomb Raider, and I was playing essentially one of the kind of not bodyguards, but kind of one of the henchmen. Really, it
Hmm.
was that was it. And and so we were on set together, and that was for me the first time I'd worked with a female star. I'd worked with F. Murray Abrams on my first ever movie. No, that was kind of he's an Academy Award winning actor, and so that was a big deal. So I
Yeah.
kind of started off in a good place with having to get used to people that I respected and admired being in close proximity and actually working with them. And you have to just switch off that fanboy and just go, right, let's just get the job done.
Yeah, and I'm sure they admire that much more too. So that way, when you run into them later on, they'll say, "Oh, you were really professional. You did what you were supposed to do," and
100%. And if you want,
yeah,
and I still sometimes have a little fanboy moment, but I'll save it to the end. Like when we're done, I'll be like, look, do you mind if we have a selfie just for my kid or
yeah,
whatever it is,
yeah,
right? Because that's kind of a nice little memento for me, and you've done a good job with them, and they're happy, and you're happy, and so it's nice to have the little takeaway.
right, right. And then another big name that you're working with, Idris Elba in Heads of State, and John
So
Cena.
yeah, what so Heads of State is this buddy movie where Idris plays the Prime Minister and John Cena plays the President of the United States. And I think it's going to be a cracker because it's based in terms of tone. When I was sort of asking like, how's this going to work? The tone of it is kind of Midnight Run, which is an '80s kind of classic with Robert De Niro. Brilliant, brilliant movie with Charles Grodin, and that relationship between the two of them. When the director told me that, I was like, oh, I can see this working. These two are kind of at each other's throats. They're kind of having little digs at each other, and then they're forced to work together to survive.
Hmm.
Um, so I had a great scene with John Cena. We're in the back of the presidential limo. I'm playing a CIA agent, and he's the president receiving all this stuff and having to kind of process and work out what the hell to do. And it was great fun to work on that big project. I was on this location where they had like these full size like jumbo jets and stuff, and it was just like, wow, this is big.
And when was that filmed?
When this was filmed earlier this year, so I was filming back in May. There was a really interesting time because that's just when the SAG after actors strike started.
Yeah.
We were on packed equity contracts, so we were able to continue working. But some others were like, I don't know whether I'm supposed to turn up to work tomorrow or not. So it was a really
Yeah.
kind of weird time whether or not the film was going to wrap or not. But it did, luckily.
Yeah, so you've been working back to back then.
Well, I was working up till then. In the UK, we're heavily reliant on US productions, and so when that strike started, we've had a very quiet time since then because film and TV, a lot of our big studios are filled with Marvel, Disney, all those kind of Netflix, a lot of American productions, and because they shut down, their American leads couldn't play, they kind of shut down. So
Mm.
we're hoping in this country that things will really pick up in the new year because the strike is now over. So
Yeah.
it's been interesting to see just how reliant the UK industry is on American studios.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. And then, so I know that obviously you're an actor, and but you also have done filmmaking as well. So, do you feel like going into next year that you're kind of more focused on acting or being more behind the scenes?
I love both, and like I said, like my origin story is that I was a filmmaker and actor, all mixed up together, and that's kind of how I see it for myself. I don't ever feel the need to kind of choose between one or the other. I directed a movie earlier this year. It's a micro-budget feature film that I wrote, I directed, and I star in. And a lot of people are like, "Wow, how do you direct and be the main character in the thing?" And it's like that's just something that I'm very adept at. I've got
Mhm.
used to it from doing my very small micro budget productions and taking that into a slightly larger production. Now it's a feature film. And I love that whole process. And I have a great talent for being able to flip between director and actor very quickly. You know, I can be behind the camera, organizing all that stuff, step into a scene, and then just drop into it quite easily. And it also helps that I wrote it, so I know exactly where the character is and where they're coming from, what that moment means, and all those things.
And so, would you say film is your favorite medium compared to TV?
Yes, 100%. I love cinema. I grew up on cinema. I love the fact that have a captive audience. You know, you have that
Mhm.
huge screen, and when you're a cinema viewer, that's your whole kind of world,
Right.
right? And you don't have distractions. You don't have anything else. And I think that that's really unique in terms of entertainment. Like TV, it's a box in a room. Oh, we have big TVs and stuff like this, but it's still a
Hmm.
box in a room, and there's a lot going on. And I think that cinema still has a two things. It has that unique ability to connect with an individual viewer. Even though you're in a cinema full of people, you can feel a personal relationship with what's going on screen. But
Hmm.
it also gives you the ability to have a shared experience. If you go to a cinema that's full of people and you have a shared experience of watching that movie, that's something that you just can't replicate through, any kind of TV medium, I think.
Yeah, yeah. And I hear people have those conversations all the time. Even though, streaming is such a big thing, I think we kind of miss out on that experience being in the theater.
In the theater, 100%. And I just think that um, I went and saw Top Gun Maverick in the IMAX theater when it came out, and it was just such a fantastic blockbuster movie. And it really reminded me, because it was kind of post-COVID, it really reminded me what that cinematic experience should and could be.
Yeah.
You can feel the energy when there's a crowd of people all excited and really getting into a movie. You can kind of feel that, and that's fantastic.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And then, so what would you say you're most excited for next year?
So I have two things, and like I said, I directed a feature that is in post production at the moment. So I'm hoping that we'll do a release of that movie. That'll be really exciting because that'll be my debut feature. So that's a really big deal.
Hmm.
And then I have another movie, a heist movie that I wrote, which has been optioned for production, and that's hopefully going into production kind of middle of next year. And I'm really proud of that. It's called Five Cars. It was written as a contained kind of independent heist movie. It's now gone quite a bit higher up in terms of its scope and the production company that wants to make it, and I'll be both acting and co-producing as well as being the screenwriter on that project. So that's going to be a huge step for me to have something that I've written being made at that kind of level is super super exciting for me.
Oh wow, that sounds really big. Sounds like
I
a big
hope so.
deal.
And then of course I'm always waiting for Spielberg or someone to
Yeah, to
call
give
my
you a
agent
call.
and ask me, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm most excited
Yeah.
about.
Hey, it's coming.
Oh,
It's coming. And then lastly, I did want to ask you where people can follow you and just kind of keep up with your projects.
absolutely. So if you look for Hammy Actor, that's mostly my handle on Instagram and on Twitter, on most things. So HAMMY actor. So it's not because I'm a Hammy actor. It's just a play on the Hampton name. My website is markhamptonofficial.com and but I think probably Instagram is the best place to find me. Hammy actor on Instagram is where you'll probably find out most about me and most things that kind of link from there. So yeah, if you want to give me a follow, then that'd be amazing.
All right, you guys heard him. Go follow him. I actually did have one more question here. I don't know if you don't want to
Go
answer.
for
It's
it.
fine.
Hit me.
I was gonna ask you who is the most famous contact in your phone, and if you called them right now, would they answer?
I can't even think who that would be. That's
I
a
was gonna
tough
say,
one.
be
I
honest.
don't have one name. I don't have one. Probably a very short list of not very famous people, if I'm really honest, in my phone. No, I don't even have one name that would be like, oh, that's a star.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you lying to me?
No, no, I'm not. That's straight up. Straight up.
Wow, I'm surprised. Okay.
I don't have John Cena's number.
Okay, that's fine. I'll get it another way. All right, Mark, thank
So
you
who's
so
the
much
most
for your
famous
time.
person and what is their phone number? Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. That's the way to do it. Thank you,
Yeah,
Mark,
that's a
so
terrible
much for
answer.
your
I'm
time.
gonna have to work on that answer. I'm gonna have to rifle through my contacts and see if I got anybody famous in there.
Yeah, because you might get asked that again.
I know, right? Yeah, I'm making a note. Famous
All
people.
right. Okay. Thank you so much for your time.
Tiffany, thank you. It's been great fun. Thank you.
Yeah, and good luck with all your future projects. And I will definitely be checking out Lyft on Netflix.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good one.